Good afternoon, surfers. The tide is high and we are holding on here at Surf City. I am your host, Valeria Vega. We actually recorded this episode a few hours away from the beach this time, high up in the mountains of Cabañas. In it, we talked to a young anti-mining activist that grew up in the community of Santa Marta, which, if you've been paying attention to Salvadoran news, you might associate with the topic of mining. And Salvador itself has a very gnarly history with this model of resource extraction, becoming the first country to ban metal mining in 2017 after more than a decade of struggle, all of it based in Santa Marta. For many years in the mid-2000s, this town of former wartime refugees, and this fact will become relevant a little bit later, they fought off a Canadian gold mining company, Pacific Rim, later Oceana Gold, preventing it from establishing an open-pit mine in the area. That struggle, unfortunately, cost a good number of lives and ended up with Oceana Gold suing the entire country of El Salvador for millions of dollars in lost profits. Fortunately for us, total wipeout for the Canadians. Santa Marta is once again in the news for mining because of the 2023 arrests of the Santa Marta Five, prominent local environmental activists charged with alleged war crimes. At their trial, all the evidence presented against them was essentially hearsay, since the excavators digging at the site where the body of the victim was supposedly buried came up with nothing. So, in October of 2024, these elderly community leaders were found innocent, and the government immediately scheduled a retrial. 2 months later, before the next trial could begin, El Salvador's historic anti-mining law was repealed after Bukele tweeted about the country's gold reserves, "Esta riqueza dada por Dios puede ser aprovechada." So we're talking to Cruz in the aftermath of all this mess, and the gap between knowing that mining companies will once again be invading her neighborhood and the beginning of excavation itself. Why is she worried? Why should you be? Let's find out. We are coming to you live from Surf City, and we have a very special guest today to talk to us about how Surf City can continue on into the future and many other things to do with El Salvador's natural resources. We are talking to Cruz, who is here to say a few things about mining. Hi, Cruz.
How's it going?
I'm okay. How are you?
Doing pretty well. Thank you for having me here.
Oh, I'm so happy. I'm so happy that we get to do this. Cruz, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you have a lot to say about mining in El Salvador?
As you said, my name is Cruz and I live in Santa Marta, this community in North El Salvador, which I'm sure many of the people that is listening to this podcast have heard about before, which has a long record against mining, and I've been involved with that anti-mining movement, the ways that it's been possible to me.
How has mining or anti-mining affected you as someone from Santa Marta?
Well, personally, I feel scared and afraid about a project like that to take place in El Salvador, since we have very limited sources like water, lands, and stuff. And it's scary to think that such invasive projects can take our water sources, displace thousands of families, communities from their houses, their lands. Yeah, knowing that this administration, Bukele's administration, is currently repressing all the anti-movement activism, and how they are targeting youth, environmentalists, community organizers, everyone that has something to say against mining has been repressed, incarcerated, or persecuted in many different ways.
Can you give us some examples? Like who has been repressed and why?
For this administration, everyone that has something to say against their script, like mining is safe, mining will bring a lot of employment and development for El Salvador. Everyone that says something against that, it's like we have to, for this administration, it's like they have to silence that. So basically, the media that is controlled for this government, that's what they're saying, like what mining's bringing for El Salvador is development, is economical growth, and versus that is the other journalists, the ones that are compromised with the communities, and they're saying the other side of the truth, which is no, what mining is going to bring to communities, to the people in that lands, is just destruction. It's just water contaminated by mercury, by cyanide. And also they've been saying how this will give opportunities, employment opportunities for people, which is true, but also at what cost? That will just give severe illness to everyone that gets involved with mining and that type of jobs. And I'm sure that what they will pay to these people will be a misery compared to the destruction they'll be doing to their bodies. So saying that aloud, posting that on social media is scary, and everyone that does it, it's like with a lot of courage, because there is a record of persecution to anti-mining organizations and even people in particular, like the environmentalist and community organizers from Santa Marta. Like, I'm sure some of you have heard about it, the 5 of Santa Marta who were incarcerated back in 2023. This fake case that they created about a killed person back like more than 30 years ago in the war times. And now they're trying to, according to their script, is like bringing justice. But in reality, what they want is to silence that voices that are saying that mining is not safe, is not sustainable.
That whole situation feels a little crazy to me, right? Because if they're persecuting environmental activists, why are they choosing to do it that way? Why persecute environmental activists with a war crime?
The way that we could put this together is not it's a political case, because they're not persecuting 5 killers and bring up justice. They're persecuting 5 environmentalists from Cabañas, from Santa Marta and Hades, and those people are also 5 recognized community organizers that have a long trajectory in the defense of water, in the defense of Rio Lempa, even back like 20 years ago in 2004, when Pacific Rim was trying to get their permits to exploit mining in San Isidro, Cabañas. So they have targeted these people from long ago. And just in 2022, when ADES and other organizations made it public that Bukele's administration had the intentions to reopen mining, that's when they create this case and like, no, we have to stop this right now before everybody, like the whole country, knows that our actual intentions are to reopen mining and bring our friends from the big companies to extract gold and silver.
So for folks who are listening who might not know, this had been the claim of the community for quite some time, right?
Yes.
That people were being persecuted for their environmental activism and not for their activities during the war.
Exactly.
Right? These folks were exonerated. They were found innocent in October of last year, right?
Yeah.
And then the government was immediately like, we're appealing. And right when they said that, like a month or 2 later, they're like, and mining is legal once more in El Salvador. So the timing seems a little creepy to me.
Right, exactly, yeah. It was like their whole show was fading, and they have to come up and say the truth. Like, here, El Salvador, this is what we want.
Yeah.
So it was too. I was like super mad, and like I couldn't believe, because we were celebrating when the court say like, okay, you're free. The five are free, and the whole community, the whole environmentalist movement in El Salvador, and outside, everyone, the international solidarity, we're celebrating that. And just 5 days later, the Fiscalia will not recognize that, and they were appealing, which is totally illegal, because that's not the process that you should follow. Like, and now the five are facing another trial, which is against the rule. Like, that's not how the legal process should go. Like, people should not be going to trial twice for the same crime if that's what they're persecuting for. Yeah, but now that's what we're facing again. And it's not just the five of Santa Marta. All over the country, other environmentalists and community organizers are facing the same, like persecution, intimidation, and they've been intimidating the families of the lawyers that are defending other environmentalists. And it's just scary for everyone to raise up their voice and say what they know and the true information about mining.
A recent example of the criminalization of environmental activism are the May 2025 arrests of Alejandro Enriquez, a lawyer, and Jose Angel Perez, a local pastor, who were both accompanying an overnight vigil led by 300 campesino families of the Cooperativa El Bosque, protesting their displacement at the hands of a new logging and development project, coincidentally located just in front of Nayib Bukele's gated community. Instead of forcing the president to negotiate with the families, the quiet vigil attracted the UMO, the Salvadoran riot police, who broke up the event and began arresting attendees, and prompted Bukele, in a crash-out over having to see poor people near his house after clocking out for the day, to begin pushing for the Foreign Agents Law, alleging that global elites should be held responsible for financing this unrest in El Salvador.
I know that this digital journal, El Faro, El Focus, La Brújula, and all of them have suffered persecution or intimidation by, I won't say like the government, but somehow it's their tentacles that are like touching them and like scaring them to, because those are some of the journalism that are paying attention to that and sharing the truth about mining and what this administration's intentions are, like presenting information that otherwise the population wouldn't have access to, because the officialism would not share that. Like we wouldn't know that the Titan mining company from Peru have already bought land in San Isidro to, like, that this is following their interests and their campaign to make sure that they have their spot there to exploit mining. But that's because journalists and other environmentalists and people that are organized find that information. Otherwise, the government would not share that.
Who else is interested in mining right now? So you said there's a company from Peru who is buying land. Do you know what else or who else?
So far, I know that this company called Titan from Peru have been approaching land owners from San Isidro and have already bought pieces of lands where it's supposed to be, or it's supposed to like gold have been found there. That's something that I could confirm because I saw the articles about it. But then there's other people moving around that have the same interests, like Bukele's family or immediate families, and their friends, of course, that've been around. And same as in San Isidro, people have been approaching other areas like in San Sebastián, in La Unión. I heard that there's military presence already there and huge machinery, which we haven't seen in like more than a decade, but now they're there and taking over the places. We're facing something scary that I'm sure that the anti-mining movement has to stay up and present, and if not, I don't think we'll be able to stop this madness.
The 2017 anti-mining law was in effect until the very end of last year. Have there been any active mines at all in the country? Like, is any kind of mining allowed, or is it just metallic mining? Do you know? Like,
yeah, I was there when the anti-mining law was passed.
Okay.
I was there.
You were at the assembly?
I was at the assembly. It was such a emotional moment. I remember there were so many organizations there and many other community representations. And when we hear the news that the assembly passed the law, there were tears in everyone's eyes, like joy and celebrating. It was such a emotional moment because we knew that in that journey, many great environmentalists were killed, like Marcelo, Dora, and others. And I was there too when in December 23rd last year, 2024, the Bukele's assembly passed.
You went to the assembly for that too?
Yeah, I was there too, and it was a totally different emotion, of course.
Yeah. Merry Christmas.
So this, very devastating, and like, of course, they did that in this time that no one will really pay attention to it. Or if they will hear that, they were like, okay, I'll read it later, or like there were more time because it was Christmas.
Yeah.
And responding to the other question, I'm not sure if there's like a industrial level mining. I think it's not. There's like, at least in San Sebastián, in La Unión, I know that there's the people that live in the surroundings, they live by like, how would you call it, like craft mining?
Mm-hmm.
So
like artisanal mining.
Artisanal mining. And besides that, I'm not sure if industrial mining is happening. I will say it shouldn't have been because there was a law that prohibits that bans it. But now we're facing the opposite, like it's totally allowed. And the government is requesting zero to nothing of like in paperwork. They're not requesting companies for a environmental report of what the impact is going to be, how they're gonna fix that. Nothing like that. It's that law is like, it has a lot of emptiness in that area because basically what they want is just to bring huge companies to feel free, like this is their farm, and they're free to take whatever, leaving just destruction to the communities, and they will take the huge percentage of the minerals.
So what was just approved in December of last year wasn't just repealing the anti-mining law, it was creating a pro-mining law.
Exactly.
Right? And it doesn't require environmental studies or anything like that before companies can start working.
I mean, they do, but it's like very minimum, I think. And it's crazy to think how the Ministerio de Ambiente will handle that because there's a major cut to their budget this year. So how they're gonna do that to work on that, facing these huge companies that would be requesting, hey, we want to take your gold, your silver, whatever, and how will be this Ministerio, how do you say Ministerio?
Ministry of the Environment.
Yeah, how they will handle all of that because they don't have the money for a lot of employees or like scientifics and people that has the actual experience and knowledge for it to say like, okay, you're allowed or you're not, you need this or you need that. It's like
there's no money for oversight.
Exactly.
Yeah. What would people be mining for? Is it just gold? Is it just silver? What kind of resources are companies interested in?
As far as I know, it's mostly gold and silver that they have identified.
And I know Santa Marta itself, the community that you're from, has a very particular and long-term history with mining, with gold mining specifically. Can you say a bit about what happened with the Canadian gold mining company Pacific Rim and sort of how that anti-mining movement was created in the first place here?
Well, back in 2006, I was just like a 10-year-old girl. But I remember that, yeah, like in my community, I would hear about mining, and with a very simple vocabulary, we were told that that was not viable for any country, for no one. And I would hear that it will bring a lot of contamination because of the mercury that is used, that chemic that is used to separate the mineral from the rocks, and cyanide too. I knew that ADES, the Asociación de Desarrollo Económico y Social, but I wanted to say it in English.
The Society for Economic and Social Development.
Yeah, I know that they were leading that movement at some point, educating people, informing people about what were the consequences about mining. And back in that time, mining companies were here. Like, they were already established here.
Did they have offices?
They had offices in San Isidro. I knew that they had offices, and that was Pacific Rim, later Oceana Gold, but with Canadian capital. And ADES and Santa Marta, and later some other organizations started organizing communities, not just in Cabañas, but in other departamentos where that could also potentially happen. And it created a whole movement. Around the same time, it was the La Mesa Nacional contra la Minería Metálica that would involve also other communities with the same eager to fight mining.
And this was a nationwide
coalition.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And ever since, I remember Santa Marta and ADES have been always on the look for that and watching every move of the government to bring up that law, right? The anti-mining law that was first in the world, the first country in the world to have a law like that, something that we felt really proud to have. And then trying to protect that, because we knew that not everyone that gets to power had that vision, that common vision to protect our, we say, casa común, our land, our territory, which is trees, the rivers, the creeks, and everything. So we knew that if someone gets to power and doesn't care about that and only cares about the economic part, they will put it down. And that's what happened with Bukele. So we were alert, and these other organizations were also alert. And now I think it's this new law that permits mining had also bring up a wake-up call in many, many different spaces in El Salvador. Like, now you can see a lot of youth that are in the call, that are organizing rallies, that are organizing protests and marches against mining, which is very like it makes me feel really excited. Like, okay, youth are awake, youth are paying attention to this issue that would affect everyone, and it's great to see young leadership in these spaces. And yeah, I heard, for example, last month there was two rallies in front of the National Biblioteca in San Salvador, and that was organized by the Voces del Futuro, which is a movement organized for mainly youth and students organizations. And same like that, there's a lot of other organizations and communities that, knowing that we have these projects in the ¿cómo se dice? Horizonte? On the horizon. We have to fight, and like even stronger. Like if we were like kind of low, like a few years ago, now we have to stand up and stay like that and resist and fight, because a law like that is just bringing death. It's like a death sentence for a country like ours.
That's a pretty strong statement. So why do you say that? Like, what about El Salvador makes it a bad idea to start large-scale mining here?
Well, let's start with the fact that El Salvador is one of the most dehydrated countries in the whole Americas. More than 50% of the population receive water with the Lempa River. And according to a study that the Water Forum of El Salvador, and it said that if mining were about to happen in El Salvador, it would take 22 million liters of water per second.
Per second?
I think so. Wow. Wait, let me...
Okay, let's fact check this. The Foro del Agua is quoted in La Prensa Gráfica alleging that mining in El Salvador would use up 22 million liters of water a day, not a second, for the leaching process, and more than 164 million for extraction. So Cruz was a little off the mark, but those are still very scary numbers.
But even though if it was just per a day, that's still like a lot. Yeah. It would take a huge orbital amount of water per second, and that's already like something to be scared about. There's thousands of communities all over the country that do not have water in their houses, and they have to walk kilometers to get water for their basic needs.
How often does that happen? Is that pretty normal that people have to do that?
It's been like that, yeah, because the water system, the state water system, doesn't really cover that need for the whole population. So instead of investing in that to make water more accessible, it's like going the opposite, like giving to these projects that will only leave destruction. So I would say like the main goal here is protecting water. If we don't have water, there's no life.
And is it just an issue of water access? Are people also concerned about water contamination with metallic mining?
Yes, definitely. Because for, as I said before, for this kind of project, they need cyanide, they need mercury.
Why do they need, it's a process to like separate?
It's a process that they follow in order to separate the minerals from the huge rocks and
so
stuff.
That's just like an industry standard.
Exactly. And not just that minerals, that's like the main ones, but then there's a lot more. The problem is that they don't have a safe process to bring that water, like to clean up that water again. Can you imagine that? Like it's not possible. So that water, that contaminated water with high like death chemics, are put into the rivers, back into the rivers. From many communities live from. Like they use that water for their farms, they use that water to drink, for everything. Like it's their life. And then in order to make everything function in that process, as I said before, they need millions of liters of water, so that they how do you say, hacen estos hoyos profundos.
They dig deep holes.
They dig deep holes that would take the underwater, the underground.
Aquifers,
Yeah, exactly. So that's destroying the reserves of water underground, and it's very exploited because it's like taking millions of liters of water per second, which doesn't leave enough time to the earth to replant it or recover from that.
Yeah.
And that will be affecting other like community generated water projects, like in all of these areas where the public system doesn't cover their needs. They have these type of holes where they get their water. So having this mining close by, it means that will kill their resources too.
From what you're describing, it sounds a bit like fracking in the United States, where they pull water directly out of the aquifers, and that, as you said, creates water scarcity for a lot of communities, but it also makes the ground very unstable, right? That seems like a big risk for an area that's as mountainous as here, right?
Definitely. I'm not sure if this new law, I think they were saying that this would not be open sky. Yeah, but whatever the way it is, it's still it would be devastating the lands, the landscapes, the water sources and channels.
Can you say a bit more about the effects on public health caused by things like mercury and cyanide? What does that do to people who live in proximity to mining?
I think, as far as I heard, is like one of the most common illness would be insuficiencia renal.
Kidney failure.
Yes, because water is contaminated and your
kidneys are
cannot process that. But also cancer, and the people in San Sebastian, they have been already experiencing that type of illness. And as you mentioned, in the United States, like in Virginia, it's been shown how people have been affected by consuming that water that was contaminated like maybe more than 50 years ago. And in San Sebastian, it's been like 100 years ago that mining took place there, and the remains are still there. The contamination is still there. So it's not like, okay, we get the gold, we get the silver, and we'll leave this place and it will like, ¿cómo se dice? Rejuvenecer. Regenerate like
Mother
itself.
Nature will come back.
Exactly. It's not such a trick like that. So the contamination will remain for like centuries, as we have seen.
San Sebastian is a town in La Unión that had active gold mines for 100 years, from 1904 until 2006. In the 1960s, it was considered one of the most prolific mines in Central America. Today, the soil is irreversibly contaminated, and the water is a copper red color, unsafe to drink. Locals spend an average of 20% of their income to purchase clean water, and even so, they still suffer from Guillain-Barré syndrome and chronic kidney failure. So in short, San Sebastian is kind of the poster child for why mining in El Salvador is a bad idea. I find this interesting because so much of what this government is banking on is tourism, right?
Yeah.
Playing up the beaches and the lagos and da-da-da-da. How do you think this fits in long term with having natural resources, just even to visit, right? Do you think that how do you think that these two things work with the big plan of the government, I guess?
Yeah, this reminds me like that song, the Bad Bunny song. ¿Cómo se dice Hawaii?
Yeah.
Lo que le pasó a Hawaii. I think we are approaching something like that because, yeah, in every, ¿cómo se dice? Rueda de prensa, like press conference that Bukele has, it's always presenting the beaches like the destiny for tourism, and presenting these beaches that were already pretty visited by tourism, but now they're introducing it like the Bitcoin city or beach, and then they're renaming these places with their brand. Surf City. Yeah, like why? Yeah, everything is like becoming their brand, kind of, and I think it's not a sustainable way to make tourism. It's not sustainable because, like, for example, El Tunco, that now is Surf City, they didn't even have running water before that, or a actual like hospital, schools, and still I was there, like not in El Tunco but close by, and I was at this restaurant and I asked for the bathroom and they said, oh, it's not working, and I was like, why? There's no water. It's been like 3 days and we don't have water.
Wow.
And I was like, really? And then how these hotels work? And they said, they bring these huge pipes. And
yeah, the big water trucks.
Yes. And they fill up their tanks. And these huge pipes they're talk about are the Coca-Cola pipes.
Like La Constancia.
La Constancia.
People. Yeah. Wow.
So it's a whole market.
Yeah.
And a whole like privatization of everything there. And I don't think that is representing a way to solve the needs that El Salvador population needs.
Because that sounds kind of what they're banking on, right?
Exactly.
If we have much less water and our water is more contaminated and the government is not investing in, say, water filtration plants and in improving access and, expanding the tuberías and it sounds like what they're doing is leaving it in the hands of people like Coca-Cola or La Constancia or Agua Cristal or whatever to be the ones to meet that need.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's very centralized because right now if you put in Google which places to visit in El Salvador, like it will already say just beach. Yeah. And it will be like the ones in the more like occidental area where they have more control and where all these like international or like foreigners, investors are taking place and privatizing that area. But they will not talk about that much of other places like the mountains in Chalatenango or other areas that are ruled by communities or community organizations that all are also struggling to like keep up their business with like small places that had a lot also to share, but it's just what the government says, like this is the way to make tourism in El Salvador because they have control over that areas too and like what people can see or experience in the country.
So you said something to me very interesting before we started recording, which was, how do you know all this stuff? And it's because you're doing like a whole thesis about water, right? Can you say more about your own research and what you're interested in?
Well, I think living in Santa Marta, I just get like naturally I get informed about everything, and also, but not just like that, but being a person that cares about the environmental issues, I think then you get to inform yourself with a lot of different sources. And yeah, I'm recently starting writing my thesis for my university, my undergrad. And I am interested in writing the role of women in defending and protecting the Lempa River, not just in El Salvador, but Honduras and Guatemala, because it happens to be that the causes of Lempa are in between these three countries. And it happens that in the three countries, mining is about to happen or is happening already, like in Guatemala and Honduras.
Like in the watersheds of the Lempa River.
Exactly. And I saw this book, or was it an article, that said the anti-mining movement has a face of a woman. A lot of the spaces I've been around is mostly women that are putting up their voices and giving their time and yeah, passion to investigate and show up themselves to the rallies, to the march. And you will see in the pictures it's mostly women. And I mean, it's great, but also we need the whole country to come up together and defend our house that is this land.
Why women? Why do you think it's mostly women that you see at the forefront of these pro-water movements?
I think there's a basic need, and a lot of the countryside, like the rural communities, women are the ones that experience the lack of water the most. Like if there's no water at home, they are the ones that are left in charge to bring water to the house, to wash the dishes, to wash the clothes, to have water to drink. So they're the ones that have to walk kilometers to get water from a creek. And we're not talking about clean and processed water from a creek or from a river or from a pozo. And I think, yeah, it has a direct impact in women's life. And I think that's one of the reasons that women will come up the most, but also in a lot of the organizations that I've been in contact with, women are the ones that are leading these organizations. It's like that.
Have you been surprised with this new pro-mining law, the kinds of people that have started going to rallies or the kinds of people that have started speaking out on social media? Like, do you think that the country itself is a lot more concerned about mining now, or do you think it's about the same?
I would say so. Yeah, because it was true that as soon as that new law was passed, there was a huge rejection. And the government realized, like, okay, we fucked up with this. Like, people doesn't want mining. And I think this is the first time that there's like a common page where everyone, no matter which party you support, it's not about parties. It's like about your health, your water, your lands. There's no like party, like political associations. It's about our lives and lands. And I think this is this issue brings up a lot of people together to defend and protest about mining.
Yeah, I'm asking because I just saw a survey asking people if they feel like El Salvador is an appropriate country for mining, and almost 60% says no, which is kind of surprising because I feel like the government's approval rating is like around 60% or more, right?
Yeah, that's the UCA. Yeah. It was quite interesting to see that, and I mean it's great that people have given themselves the chance to read or hear a different story, different than what Bukele has been saying, and participate in this type of, how do you call it, encuestas?
Yeah, surveys.
Service.
Just for funsies, I want you to, if you want to read this out loud into the microphone, but I was really struck by this comment on, I think it was La Prensa Gráfica or El Diario de Hoy, one of those, publishing a news story about how the mining law was approved, and there was so much fighting happening in the comments. And I don't know, this one really stuck out to me, and I feel like it's really emblematic of how people are more or less feeling, right? This is a guy who, well, whatever, you'll read it.
Let me see. It says, muy decepcionado, presidente.
Very disappointed, Mr. President, but I'm not going to say what I really think because I'm very thankful for what you've done for this country. But I will say something. I hope that at the very end you'd come to your senses and backtrack. That it's only the wise who course correct. Don't erase with your left hand what your right hand is working on, and vice versa. As for me, you'll always have my respects.
Yeah, it's like in the way of like, we support you, but also please make sure like you're doing the right thing. Like this is not something that we support.
Yeah, this feels very to me like Trump voters currently in the United States who have gotten fired from their jobs. Like, I voted for you 3 times. I think you're so smart. I think what you're doing is great for this country, but please recognize that this was a stupid move, and I know that you know better. It's still like a lot of faith in the government, but also like, you fucked up.
Yeah, you fucked up. Yeah, that's a lot of the comments that we've been seeing lately, which is, I mean, hold it, keep it. When it's time to vote, kick these motherfuckers out. Because if they didn't care at all approving a law like this, which is, again, like a death sentence, imagine what else they can do. Like now with that majority in the assembly, and now they have changed the constitution, like they can basically perpetuate themselves in the power for decades if they want. We're not too late yet. I mean,
it's not too late yet.
There's still time to change something and kick out these people out and do something better for our country. And I think mining thing in everybody's head, like, this government's not caring about our needs. And they're saying, like, we need development. They're investing in but they're doing major cuts in the national budget to education system, the health system. So how, like, it's a contradictory speech, and people are paying attention to that, and that's a lot because of mining have bring up that type of like comments in the same social medias of the country, El Canal 10, that would never say something serious about it. Like, it's always joking about every rally. They go and take a picture, like at the early start of the rally, and they're like, yeah, they're joking about it, like, oh, look at that, it didn't work, and these like 10 people are the ones that are against mining, which in reality, like, they were just there early. But these are the social medias that now people are also doing a different they're commenting differently versus like before this new law, everything was like amen to everything, like, right. Bukele will post amen, and now, like, I've been seeing a lot of comments that said no mining, and we support you, and we care you, we love you, president, but no mining. So I hope the people would not forget this, because it's easy to forget how much damage those administrations have been doing to our country. And by the time that elections come, like, a lot of this is forgotten. And tricks like that thing that Bukele did at the beginning of the year, like, okay, we will pay your bills for this month. It's like right after they approved that law, like, okay, let me please you. We'll pay your bills this month. Nice for you this so then people will, like, forget, like, you did this atrocity. But no, people really like understood, okay, that was their trick. And, like, yes, they will do stuff like that by the time of the elections. So I hope people keep this in their head and also show up to marches, to rallies, to everything that need their presence there. And yes, stand up and no mining in El Salvador.
Thank you so much, Cruz. This was so informative and also very energizing. So I appreciate you being on the podcast today.
I mean, it's always great to know that this information will land to people that probably have heard little or nothing about it, or have misconceptions about it. Like, probably people will just heard like the other version of what mining will bring up to El Salvador. And yeah, I'm always pleased to share what I know, like if it's little or yeah.
No, I appreciate you so much for sharing your knowledge, and definitely encouraging listeners to keep informed about this issue, because if you still want to keep visiting the Madre Patria or whatever, you should be able to do it without having to drink cyanide. So
exactly.
No mining.
No mining. Sí a la vida y no a la minería.
The Santa Marta Five were again found not guilty on all charges during their second trial in September of last year. However, to avoid what they felt was an unjust double jeopardy, the five refused to ever appear in court. That same month, Alejandro and Jose Angel were released on parole after pleading guilty to the charges of resisting arrest and disorderly conduct. So far, about 3 different mining corporations have registered in El Salvador since mining was reinstated at the end of 2024, in addition to Titan, who already owns land in Cabañas. The new law, however, only allows the Salvadoran government to begin exploiting mines, so we might take this delay in exploitation as a sign that negotiations over possible private-public partnerships are still ongoing. Why go this route instead of just auctioning off mines to the highest bidder? Tune in next time, surfers, to learn about why the Salvadoran government is so cash-strapped and just how cooked the Salvadoran economy really is. Our theme music is thanks to the talents of Paco Casanova, George Fierro, and Guille. Salud!